And it's a pleasure to welcome Ben Fredrickson from the Post-Dispatch. Is there any part of you on Monday that was thinking, why didn't John Mozeliak just say, you know what, it's been a great run. I really appreciate Cardinal Nation. It's Hein's job now. I'm just going to help out for a year. And his approval rating, it's not skyrocketing, but it gets better. He goes out on top.
Well, I think you asked a great question as to why one more year. Look, I didn't think Mo was going to walk away from his job with one more year left on his deal. No chance. And we all knew he wasn't being fired. He would have left on his own terms, if at all. I did wonder if he might take a little bit of a lesser spot in the spotlight as kind of this transition year begins, but that's the opposite of what he said. I mean, I asked if Bloom is going to be involved at all with the major league decision making, and I kind of got laughed at by Bill DeWitt Jr. saying, well, yeah, anyone in the front office is, but they hadn't mentioned that at all during the press conference up to that point, and you would think they would have maybe said he'll also be involved in some of these trades, some of this roster building, but they were really making it sound like he had one project, which was to take care of kind of this player development vehicle they're trying to rev back up after they've lost the way on that. But Mo made it clear he's the president of baseball operations. He's going to be making those decisions. He's in the point role, and it doesn't surprise me, but I do think for optics' sake, it would have been a little bit better if maybe they put Bloom a little bit more in front, even in the transition year. But I think the reality of this is Mo wants to make this seem like he's setting Bloom up for success, but we both know, and everybody knows, that he wants to go out in a little bit better light. And if they take expectations way down and they play a young team that maybe we've seen young teams overperform, they don't have to be a postseason team next year for people to say, well, they're in a little bit better of a spot. You can see the core starting to grow, and then maybe he can ride off into the sunset with a little bit more of an optimistic view. I think that's a big part of it here.
I think everybody likes to plan moving forward, really develop that farm system, add personnel, good coaching. But when I'm watching like the Padres, Dodgers, and Braves and Phillies, I'm thinking, hey, we may be playoffless for a while because we're not even close to some of those teams.
How much credit does an organization get for saying it's going to fix what it let break? I mean, that's really what we're talking about. For years, the Cardinals were the envy of the league in how they filled answers from within. They'd go out and get a free agent from time to time, but it would be an exception for where they had a big need. They become a team that has a rotation built fully on free agents. Their cornerstone infielders, their future Hall of Famers are both guys who were developed elsewhere. A draft and develop team, we hear it, draft and develop. They had stopped developing. So I'm hesitant to say, well, this is a great idea, a great plan. They don't have another choice, Frank. I mean, how are they going to be competitive next year? They're going to go out and re-sign 3 more starting pitchers. They're going to go out and what free agents, and I've defended this, I think St. Louis is still a great place to play. But if you're a free agent checking out the Cardinals, what's your appetite for signing here now? It's probably as low as it ever has been. Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright, they're not around. This team's faded from the relevance of the baseball teams that are at the top, like the Padres and the Dodgers, and they've missed more postseasons than they've made since 2016. So in some ways, I think this is the right pivot, but I also don't think they had much of a choice right now.
Let's get specific. Ryan Helsley is their best player and in the prime of his career, but it really makes sense to trade him, which seems like preposterous in the history of the Cardinals. You're trading your best player in the prime of his career, but it's a good idea, right?
You want to get back to drafting and developing guys who can be stars, and you may have to, in some ways, lean into that by trading one of the few guys you've drafted and developed lately that's turned into a star. It doesn't make a ton of sense, I agree, but is this team next season going to be in a position where it can take advantage of an elite closer? There are teams that are going to be in the postseason that would be desperate to have Ryan Helsley. They've shopped him before, and they've held on to him. I don't know if you have to move him. Maybe you wait till the trade deadline where teams are really desperate and willing to pay even more for a closer. But I'd certainly see what teams out there were willing to offer. I think you have to do the same with Sonny Gray.
Yeah. In fact, let me get specific with like 3 players.
Sure.
You tell me, we'll go rapid fire fashion, why it makes sense to keep him or trade him. Nolan Arenado.
I don't think a team out there is rushing to take on that contract. Now, I think you also have to look at, is Nolan Arenado willing to do this, be a part of this team and this rebuild? We've heard him say, hey, there's too many young guys in the clubhouse. He said that after last season. Well, if he feels that way, you got to find a way to maybe see if there's a team out there that wants to take on his contract. You're not going to pay money for Nolan Arenado to play for someone else. That's a Rockies move. You don't want to do that. But he did say some things this year. He likes these young guys. They're kind of revving him up a little bit. Look, Nolan Arenado plays the game the right way. He works hard. He cares. He's not a bad presence to have around. they got to win a postseason game with this guy at some point. It's crazy he hasn't won a playoff game with the Cardinals. The Goldschmidt-Arenado era has been a huge disappointment, but I don't think they have to move him, in some ways in part because I don't think they can get great value for what his contract is.
Sonny Gray.
I would shop him. He's not a true ace. He's a good starting pitcher. If he had a Cy Young type year this year, maybe you feel differently, but I think there are teams out there that would give up a pretty penny to have him. He had a good year. It wasn't an elite year, but I think if you're looking at really leaning into the youth of this team, that's the kind of guy you might get some return on. Kind of try to do what the Blues did, package young guys who are talented around each other to help build out that core.
Wilson Contreras.
He's your best player in terms of offense. He has made it public that he wants the front office to build a contending team now. Usually guys who speak out about what they want the front office to do, they don't last very long around here, it seems like lately. He's also, here's the thing you got to think about, he's probably the most liked player on the team from the fans' perspective. I don't think a lot of teams love his catching ability. That's just the reality, but he is a hitter. There's a DH available. If he's not willing to be a part of a bit of a rebuild, I know they don't want to call it that, then you might see what's out there for him. But I got a hard time trading away a guy who's your best offensive weapon right now. He plays with a passion. He's fired up about being here. And the reality is, if teams don't view him as a catcher, you're probably not going to get a great bargain on what he brings if they're only viewing him as an offensive player.
All right, we've been negative for a while. Let me give one possible positive scenario. Alec Burleson led your team in RBIs. Mason Wynn is a budding star.
Yeah.
And then Brendan Donovan had a 342 on base. What if Jordan Walker, the best prospect since Pujols, figures it out, and Nolan Gorman, who has 60 homers at age 24, makes some swing adjustment? Could there be any scenario here where it clicks?
Totally. Young teams outperform expectations in Major League Baseball right now all the time. Look at how quickly the Baltimore Orioles are where they are. It's not just player development of the minor league guys, it's player development of Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman went from leading this team in home runs one season to finishing his season in Memphis. Jordan Walker went from a legitimate candidate at time for National League Rookie of the Year to spending more games in Memphis this season than he did last season. I know it's easy to say, well, if Goldschmidt and Arenado played better this year, this team could be in the playoffs. Well, if Gorman and Walker played better this year, then this team perhaps would have been in the playoffs. I think it's totally fair to think those guys could get something fixed, and this team could be maybe more competitive than people think. Here's what the Cardinals are doing, Frank. It's smart. They're taking down expectations way low, as low as they ever have for the time being. So part of that is because maybe your young guys click and you outperform it. Then you have a better season even if you don't make the playoffs.
It's always fun to play the what-if game. And I wasn't in John Mozeliak's office with a camera, so I don't know for sure. But do you really think that Soto thing, that Juan Soto trade could have happened if Dylan Carlson would have been put in it?
I think that's been twisted and distorted. I think Mo was doing his pal Rizzo a favor there in Washington by letting him drive up the price. The Cardinals were not one Dylan Carlson away from having Juan Soto. They were other players that you saw. Go back and look at what the Nationals got in that trade from San Diego, and then look at what the Cardinals would have had to given up to match. It wasn't Dylan Carlson. He's unfortunately become kind of the scapegoat in the revisionist history of that trade, but it wasn't Carlson who held that up.
Well, that should make all of us feel a little better.
No, it doesn't. What should make people feel bad is look at what Zach Wheeler has done.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals literally could have had him for either Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader and other parts. And Zach Wheeler has continued to be one of the forces in baseball and is a postseason monster. That's the one that that's the realistic one that should sting.
Let's talk about the fans' perspective and heading into this season, how they should support this team, because I think this is going to be the least anticipated season I can remember in 30 years. 2 years ago when they were terrible, nobody expected it. And then this season, well, we all had hopes. But heading into this season coming up, there's not much hope. What do you think about fan support? Where's the reason to buy tickets?
Well, they're going to have to be excited about the youth of the team. And that's partly gets to kind of the mixed messages that were sent. I do think fans were willing to say, okay, this is an era of change. This is going to be nobody wants to say the word rebuild. Oh my God, rebuild, reset, or whatever you want to call it. And I think fans understand that it was time to maybe turn some pages and time to kind of bank on the youth of this team. But when the same people leading it are making the decisions that led them here, it is mixed messages. And I think that's something the Cardinals are going to have a hard time kind of marketing their way out of. Here's what I would do. I'm making Mason Wynn the face of my team. If you ask GMs around baseball, Frank, give me a position player that you want to build an organization around, you're not going to get too far down that list before some guys start saying Mason Wynn. He plays defense. Cardinals fans love defense. He's got speed. Cardinals fan loves speed. He can hit way better than people thought. He can hit better than the Cardinals thought upon his arrival at the major leagues. He's got a sweet swing. He's confident. He's got swagger. I'm making him the face. I'm making Brendan Donovan my clubhouse leader. He's already doing it. When the rookies were coming up this year, it was Brendan Donovan who was coordinating their gifts. This guy has stepped into a leadership role, and he's scrappy. He's a hustle player. Cardinals fans like what he brings to the table. I'm making these guys the face of my team, and I'm trying to get Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman in on this, get them back, and then I'm saying, hey, these guys maybe won't be world beaters this season, but look at what could come for years to come. And Cardinals fans are smart. They understand growth. They understand young players. They got to get these young guys back on track. If they can sell that message, I do think people will warm up to the idea of a younger team.
A quick thought on Ali Marmol, whose approval rating was also low by a strong percentage of the fan base. But the expected win total, if you factor in how many runs they scored, how many they allowed, was 71, and they won 83. This is not on Ali.
I don't think so. I think they were right to bring him back. I would encourage people who are mad the Cardinals fired Mike Schilt, and I totally understand that, to not blame Ali Marmol, who didn't fire Mike Schilt. It wasn't Ali's decision to can Mike. So I think some people have made that jump. Well, because he replaced the manager they liked, then therefore he must go. I don't feel that way. I think the Cardinals' problems have been with roster building. I think it's been with player development. I think Ali has done the best he can with what he's been given. He hasn't been perfect. There's certainly some things he would have played differently, more so last season than this season. But I think the way this team finished showed that he was able to get good performance out of guys, even when they really kind of saw that postseason picture fading. So I think that Ali is the right guy for this job right now. But I think he's also been put in a spot where it's tough to be the face of the manager when you're the first Cardinals team in a long, long time that's kind of saying, yeah, their goal is not really to build the best major league team. It's to try to get their player development side right. And the reality is, if you put 100 Cardinals fans in a room, how many of them are going to be fired up about a season dedicated to player development? They want to see wins at Busch Stadium. I don't blame them. I think Ali does too in his heart of hearts. But when you're put in that spot, it does make the job a lot tougher.
Awesome. Ben, good to see you, sir.
You too, man.
That is Ben Fredrickson, and we'll take a short break, and Sports Plus will continue right after this.